Yeah, not snowy Ontario today. Just for today, as they say in recovery. One thing I noticed about traveling though years ago was the mental system always goes with you. And when I used to drink, I moved at one point trying to get away from the drinking, and that didn't work. That failed actually quite badly. Actually, when I moved, I started drinking more, ironically enough. Uh, and then when I got sober, I went traveling, not under the auspices of trying to get away from something, but under the hopes that I would learn something to get me out of suffering. And the thing was, the mental system goes wherever you go. So I could be in snowy Ontario, or I could be here in the jungle in Peru, but the mental system is going. It's going with you. So as you, it's playing as you. So if you're identifying with that mental system, it doesn't matter what the eyes are looking at. Where if you're identified as the mental system, uh, man, it's gonna override whatever external situation is going on. So this could be a completely beautiful place, which it is a beautiful place. And if my head is going off and I'm identified with it, then I'm gonna I'm gonna listen to that head through the identification over wherever I am. This is everybody, yeah. If you're listening to this radio station, it is going to override whatever external situation is going on. So the external situation is probably not confirming what the mental system is saying, but because it's taken to be your mental system, you're going to identify with it over anything else. And it doesn't matter how crazy that mental system is. Like for alcoholics, for instance, they're gonna listen to that over anything else. But even if you're not alcoholic, you're not in some program. The mental system, if you're identified as it, is going to override whatever comes up, and it's going to override it based on its conditioned responses to this life. So I noticed when I travel, I remember being in Bali, Indonesia once, and there was this crazy sunset, and my head was going off, judging stuff from months before, yeah. And it was beautiful because it produced this amazing duality of something happening and then another story that's going on here. And if you're identified as that story, it doesn't matter where you go. That story is going to override wherever you are. And that to me is extremely important to see that. Because if you don't see that, then you're bound to it. So if you don't see that it's the identification with the body that has us in this position of essentially listening to whatever it says, the brain, it's identified with through the my thought, then we're bound to it. We're bound to it through the identification. That's what is causing the sticky point, let's say, through the my. And yeah, I've seen that in my own life. Something beautiful here, and then a completely different commentary here. And man, it's amazing message to hear that that's not where you start, or that's not where you are. Let's say, for instance, uh, because you can stop living under the constant spinning of the mental system, which is always thinking about past and future, by the way. Even if it's thinking about now, it's interpreting now. So it's not actually touching what's happening right now. It's just meeting it with its own conditioned interpretation, which is actually distorting what's happening right now. And that's great. So I love the message of not to, because it's just a negation. There's no destruction of what's going on. Actually, Ramesh Balsekar would say, you accept. He would say accept the ego. I don't use the word ego that much because when I was going to satsangs, they didn't really use it. But the more you try to stop the thinking, the more reified it becomes. Actually, the more reified the sense of you becomes, trying to be the one stopping the thinking. So you can accept this body and mind and negate it. Yeah? A negation is not a denial or a destruction. It's like a not touching in a way. You don't touch what you're not. Whatever pops up in two-ness is what you're not. And that mental system, judging past while I'm sitting somewhere beautiful, that is of two-ness. Sense of mental system, judging past, there you go. Then there's a sense of me seeing the mental system, that is another position of two-ness. And the two-ness goes on. Yeah? But being able to put it down or open the hand on it is quite amazing. There's so much relief in that. In not having to stop or fight the mental system, but simply meeting it with a soft negation. A soft opening of the hand. And to me, that's great, man. So much relief in that. So yes, Peter, new situation. Externally. Externally. Okay, I think we'll go on to this Ramana Maharshi thing here. This little quote. Because it's beautiful. That's why. If you don't know who Ramana Maharshi is, that doesn't matter. He's a guy in India who kind of really opened up this idea of non-duality or Advaita in the modern world, essentially. But anyways, let's get into this here. So, Ramana says, what is there to realize? The real is as it is ever. So what is there to realize? The real is as it is ever. So your true nature is as it is. Meaning you're not going to become that if you already are that. And that reality of, let's say, consciousness or awareness or whatever, that open, spacious listening, it is as it is. So you don't have to become it, and you're not going to make it. It is as it is, yeah? Ever, he says. Ever. So if this was to come into time, and concepts are of time, then the real, what is real, or reality, is as it is ever. So what is there to realize? The real is as it is ever. How to realize it? Isn't that awesome? What is there to realize? Well, how do I realize it? And then he says, all that is required is this. So he's saying there's one requirement to realize the real as it is. And what is reality, open awareness, is as it is. So that's done. Well, how do I realize that? And then he says, all that is required is this. We have realized the unreal, i.e. regarded as real what is unreal. We have realized the unreal. So, reality in the sense of this context, let's say, and the Buddhist context, reality would be what is, for lack of a better term, independent or self-existing. And what is not reality would be what is not independent, which is what is not independent. So he is saying, all that is required is we have realized the unreal. So if you go up to the mental system, the mental system is taking itself to be reality. Through the I thought and this body, there is a sense that this is independent from world. Through the senses and body, this is independent from world. But J and the body are not independent from world. They are of a system of two-ness. So when the eyes see objects, eyes dependent on objects, object dependent on eyes, that's a seat of two-ness, yes? When the ears hear sounds, obviously there's a sense of two-ness there, and you are not what is of two. Because if something is not independent, it is not its own existent reality. You see? So he's saying reality is a done deal. So how do I realize my own reality, let's say, of what I am, not as a body, but with what you are as awareness? You need to see what is of two-ness and see that it is not real, meaning it doesn't have its own independent existence. So thoughts, for instance, those thoughts are going, and then there's a sense that you're the one seeing the thoughts. That puts you into a seat of two-ness. Thought and thinker, yes? So obviously, since there's a seat of two-ness there, that gets negated as what you are. So you need to realize the unreal. But the thing is, the mental system and the thought me has me in the place of real, independent from world. That would be called separation. That's like the root of suffering in Advaita and Buddhism, yeah? Is this idea of separation. Now that idea of separation is based on the thought me. It's based on the my, yeah? The mental system is taking that me to be real, to be an independent thing. And this is saying that's not true. Huh. So what is there to do to realize my nature as consciousness or awareness or whatever? Well, you need to see the unreal, which J is of the unreal. Yes? The body and the brain are of the unreal, meaning that they are not independent from the consciousness which knows them, meaning J is a cloud in the sky. Yeah? But what I am and what you are is the sky itself. Now the cloud is taking itself to be an independent cloud, which it's not. Just the same way this head is taking itself to be an independent thing, your head is taking itself to be an independent thing called body, yeah? But that quote-unquote independent thing is not independent because it's completely dependent on the space of consciousness or the sky in which knows it. Yes? So the true I, or the true me, let's say, is the space of the sky. That's what we are. The head has a different story. It's playing God. Now, Ramana would call the mental system of the false God because it's placing itself in the independent, separate position of being God. And it is dictating life to you as if it is God. Yeah? But it's a false God. And in recovery, they say you need to stop playing God. Okay. So the real is as it is. How do I realize it? All that is required is this. We have realized the unreal. Huh? We have regarded as real what is unreal. So if you're identified as the me who is in this body, the thought I in this body, you are living as if this is reality. Yeah? Now the thing about that is, one, it's not reality. Two, it's completely entangled with everything else in this phenomenal world. So the story of the head is talking to you as if it's an independent thing, but it's mistaken, yeah? So if you identify with it through the I thought, it puts you in a position of like a hard two-ness. That gets very uncomfortable, yeah? So because it's not true, because this body and the brain are not independent things, let's say, or appearances within consciousness, because that's not true, it can be put down, essentially. So when he says you realize the unreal from the real, you are reality. That is the nature. And from that open consciousness, you are aware of what is unreal, which is this. Mental system, I thought, all the thoughts that come after it. It is unreal. It is real in the sense that you are aware of it, but it is unreal in that it is independent and where you start. Wow. And because that's true, you can open your hand on the unreal. The thing is, when the mental system says I or me, it's taking itself to be a permanent, independent thing. And that I thought comes and goes. When you go to sleep at night, there is no I thought. It disappears, yeah? So obviously if something comes and goes, that must not be your nature. Otherwise we're living a very unsteady existence. That identification is very unsteady. Yeah. So, the thoughts have you in the position of being reality. And this is saying those thoughts are the unreal. Okay, well, I see those thoughts. Well, that I, because it can be seen, yes? Oh, man. That's amazing. That I is obviously also part of the unreal. And if you investigate that I thought, you see that there is no independent thing called I, but there's a mental movement that comes and goes. Now, if that I thought is taken to be real, then everything that comes after it is taken to be real. And when the head starts suggesting crazy things like I'm worthless or whatever, those are going to be taken to be referencing a real thing, meaning an independent thing. Yeah? But if you see that the I thought is not actually a thing, it's an unreality in that it is dependent on what is aware of it, then you sit back into your nature, which is that open awareness, yeah? When the head starts saying crazy stuff about me, yeah, you see that that me is part of the mental system. That means the thoughts don't land anywhere. They're talking about themselves, essentially. Yeah? And that is of the unreal, meaning that those thoughts are conditioned by the past of this life. They're not independent. They're not independent ideas, yeah? Actually, no idea that pops up here is independent idea. Oh, yeah. So that's beautiful. And then he goes on, and he says, we have realized the unreal. And then he says, regarded as real, what is unreal? So from reality, from your nature, you can see what is of the unreal, which is the you that you're identified as a body. So in a way, for Ramana, if you read other stuff of his, there's like a true I and then a false I. The mental I, the mental me thought is the false I. That is part of the unreal. Okay? He also has that thing about you are the screen, not the movie. Mm-hmm. Well, the thought me and all of the story of Janus, that is part of the movie. But your nature is of the screen. It is of the screen. And then he says we have to give up this attitude. So what is taking to be real? If you're living as body and mind being what is reality, meaning completely independent from world, then you are living under a mistaken attitude through a mistaken identification. That's essentially what he's saying. Yeah. That's a beautiful thing. And then it really does bring up that, I forget if it's from 5 verses or something that he wrote, but the screen and the movie, the movie and the screen. Yeah. Now the mental system again is taking itself to be the screen. So when there's thoughts going off, there's a sense that I'm seeing those thoughts. Yeah. That is the mental system claiming to be awareness. Now that is not where you start. That I thought is of the unreal, but it's taking itself to be reality. That's why it's said to be playing God. That's so beautiful to see that, because you can open your hand on that. You can settle into the body and you can search for that I thought, and there's no independent thing that will pop up. You can't find it as an independent thing. So the sense of individuality is presenting itself as if it's a real man, as if it's a real thing, when it's not. It's not reality itself. You are a reality from before that mental claiming. You are the seer of that, the seeing of that. There is no seer. But if we go back to listening, like we were saying, I think a few days ago or something, you can hear your head claim to be the ultimate one. You can hear your head claim, I'm the seer, I'm the thinker, I'm the taster, toucher, feeler, hearer. Yeah. And what is being heard is not what is hearing. What is being perceived is not what is was not what is perceiving. That's amazing, yeah? So whatever is being perceived is of the unreal. And you can hear your head claim to be reality. You can perceive that. Meaning that the I thought, me, I am reality, is not reality. Reality would be the formless, thoughtless, silent space of consciousness before that. And then the head, the mental system, will keep taking itself to be God. It will keep taking itself to be reality. That's why I love the Ramesh Balsekar thing, because it's like you have to accept that the mental system is not going to get it. It doesn't understand that it's not reality. It's taking itself to be reality. Yeah? Uh-huh. Yeah. So if we don't see that, if you don't see that the head is claiming to be reality all the time through that thought me, then you are living as it. Yeah? Now there's a sense that you're doing that thinking and you're going to do your way out of it, but that would also be false. Because there's no you there who's doing it and going to undo it. That's the point. The me is part of the thought process. Your nature is before that. It's before that. The sky and the clouds to me is like the best. One of the best ways to whatever. Try to conceptualize whatever, the whole thing. This body and brain are like a cloud in the sky. Now you, the cloud, is taking itself to be independent because the mental system is self-centered. You're not doing that, yeah? The brain is conditioned and it operates from a self-centered point of view, which is not a bad thing as a cloud. This is not about stopping the cloudness, yeah? This is essentially seeing what is unreal and just opening the hand on it. It's not about destroying the cloudness. You're not going to kill an ego. The ego wasn't alive in the first place, so it doesn't matter. But the cloudness, because of the mental system's self-centered view, is taking itself to be independent. So it's taking itself to be independent from all the other clouds. Yes? That is false. Because the cloud is completely dependent on the space of the sky. Now, in the body, if the cloud is saying, I am independent, it's taking itself that there's a thing in the middle of the cloud, which is separate from other things, yes? This whole message says that that's not true. There is no thing inside of this body. There's a sense of me being an individual through a mental process. That for sure is happening with the mental process. But when there's a sense of being an individual, as soon as you start to search for that individual, you can't find it inside of the body. So there's a constant mental repetition going, which is saying me, 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 all day, essentially. And it keeps doing that because there is no thing called a me, so it just keeps spinning, yeah? And it will keep spinning forever. You don't want it to stop spinning, because that's how this body survives in the world, yeah? We could all use it to spin a lot less, that's for sure. Yeah. And if you stop living as it, it spins a lot less. Yeah. The body and the brain work great if you're not messing with it. That's good. Oh, okay. So the cloud is taking itself to be an independent cloud, separate from the other clouds. Yes, that is the playing of God. Now that is false because the cloud is completely dependent on the sky. The sky is not dependent on the cloud. So that's why you might read some places, you are of the unborn. Whatever is born is going to die. So the body and the brain are born. Yes, but you are of the unborn. So when the clouds come and go through the sky remains. What you are remains. It does not come and go. Meaning, that's beautiful. So obviously reality does not come and go. Existence itself does not come and go. But what is dependent on that existence comes and goes, body and mind. That comes and goes. And the thought me comes and goes. So you are of the unchanging. And within the open space or open awareness of that unchanging is a bunch of changing. The body is always changing, the brain is always changing. If you are identified as that, you're taking yourself to be this independent thing which is always changing. If you're doing that, this changing independent, quote unquote, independent thing is going to keep changing because it's of duality. This is of duality. It's never going to stop changing. It was born, it's going to keep moving and changing, and then it's going to die. Yeah? If I'm identified with it, then it's going to be a bumpy ride, essentially. Huh. Because it's operating under this false idea that it is God. The mental system is operating under the idea that my thoughts, my ideas, are the right ones. They are the right interpretation. And because of that, it puts me in a very sticky situation because that's not reality. Yes. So, it is through seeing the unreal. I'm sorry, I just gotta. Oh, Samia, hey. Yeah, nice. Unless there's a question, maybe just keep the chat chilled out. So if somebody actually puts a question in there, I can see it. Yeah. Uh, uh, yeah, I forget where I was there. Anyways, so it's through seeing the unreal. It's through seeing the unreal. Now, again, the head is taking itself to be reality. And now if you're taking that mental system to be you, you're going to live as if this body is reality. And when it changes, we're going to be very shocked. Meaning when it shifts and moves and gets sick, we're going to be very shocked. Yeah? The beautiful thing about, if you see that I or the me is just a thought that comes and goes, the idea that I am independent and permanent gets uprooted. Yeah. Now the me thought keeps going, but the thing is, all the thoughts that come after it, if the me thought gets uprooted as being an independent thing, then all the thoughts that come after it are not taken to reference an independent thing. And for a lot of people, the thoughts that come after the thought I can get quite harmful. Yeah? So they can drive people in addiction, for instance, to relapse. That's why they say self-reliance will fail you. If you're relying on the mental system as being your mental system, it will fail you. So all the thoughts are dependent on the my. Now, if the my is seen not as a permanent independent thing, yeah, if you sit back into your nature as reality, the unchanging open awareness, by negating what is unreal, then you see that the I thought is not a permanent thing. The other thoughts that come after it then lose a lot of their weight because the my-ness, the personalness of them is taken out. And I personally, that can save people's lives. Yeah. So that's why the message is so beautiful. Your head is taking itself to be reality. You are taking yourself to be reality, and it is not reality. It is part of the unreal. Man, that's good news. Now, the unreal always wants to get out of itself. That's called spiritual seeking. So the unreal, Jay wants to get out of Jay. Actually, Jay's wanted to get out of Jay pretty much Jay's whole life. Yeah? So if I'm taking Jay to be real, to be an independent, permanent thing, then I'm going to follow that. Jay getting out of Jay. But the Jayness, that thought system, that cycle, that stream of thoughts, cannot get out of itself. You are the awareness of that stream of thoughts. Meaning I was never in the Jayness as my nature. The Jayness is dependent on the viewing or the knowing of that Jayness. That's the beautiful thing about listening, is like it's not anything really. Sitting down and listening is not about changing something, pushing something away, or bringing something closer. It's listening, yeah. Whatever is heard, you don't touch that as what you are. You can hear the body and you can hear the brain. So if you don't touch that, what remains? It's just like Ramana said, what is there to realize? If you don't touch the unreal, what is there to realize? You can only land in reality as what you are, yeah? The true I, let's say. The true I. And then the head goes, me, being the false I. And as soon as that me thought comes up here, me and world come up together. Me and world will die together as well. But you are not of that. You are the never changing, in which the ever changing arises in. Yeah. So there's nothing separate from what you are. There's nothing separate from what you are. So you see the unreal as unreal. You stop gripping it. And then you quote unquote realize reality. And there's nothing separate from reality. So really everything is of the real. That's funny. But the head is taking itself to be real. The thought me is taking itself to be real. And if you're living under that, you're tied to this unreality. Or let's say this duality. And that can get quite uncomfortable. Huh? If you untie from this duality, unreality, it keeps going on, yeah? It loses a lot of its weight, though. The mental system loses a lot of its influence if I'm not listening to it. You can hear it, obviously. But if you're not listening to it, it loses a lot of gas. Because you are existence. You are existence. So everything that arises in you only gets the weight that's given to it from existence. That's the difference between listening and listening to. It's like this guy in recovery said once, my whole alcoholism is my head was talking to me and I was obeying. Yeah, that's right. Because the head is talking to you as God. And it's not. Yeah. So if you're identified as it, you're living as God, and that ain't it. The body and the mind are not where you start. Yeah. That's good news. It's good news, really. Because when I wanted relief this life, I thought I wanted relief as Jay. I thought I was going to get relief actually as Jay. But it's really relief from Jay. Because I was in the hopes that I was going to be able to change Jay into a comfortable, cool J, like a J that's compassionate and doesn't judge. And but I didn't see that J is conditioned yet. I was under the sense that I was doing J, but there is no doer, as they say in Advaita. So when my head says I am doing, it's taking itself to be a thing that is the doer. And but the whole thing is really conditioned. But that wasn't seen, that wasn't heard. So I thought I was going to change J because I was doing it. So I was like, okay, I'm going to undo it, and that failed. But that was my hope. That was the hope, was that J was going to become like a great J, or a really compassionate J, or ultimately loving J. But J is conditioned, and J is of a duality. So J, the J-ness is going to judge, because that's its nature as a dualistic thing. Yeah, J can't get out of J, but you can see, or the you can't get out of you. But from what you are, you can see the you. Meaning you were never in the you. It's through the identification, through the me thought. That's from the thought system, that's taken to be reality. And obviously Ramana is saying that's not reality. So it's really just a correction of a misunderstanding. The head goes, I am an independent thing, and that says, no, you're not. And you're not that thing. That's not where you start. You are aware of the head playing the role of being reality. You can hear that, from before it. From the never changing, you can see the changing. That's the thing about the mental system and the body. They're always moving. Yeah? So you could only see or hear that movement from stillness. So obviously your nature must be stillness, because otherwise it wouldn't be able to see the moving. Now from a conceptual point of view, that puts you in a stance of two-ness. There's an open still space which is aware of all the moving, yeah? But sitting into that, all of the moving does not exist without the still space, meaning that all of the movement, the sense of individuality and all that, is completely dependent on what you are as the aware space. As is world, because that aware space is everywhere. Everything is pervaded by what you are. Wow, okay. So if there's any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat there. Again, that reading's from Ramana. Okay, welcome back. Yeah. Well, who is grasping that concept? That is really the inquiry. There's the sense that I am grasping this concept. The thing is, when you go to satsang, you see what's trying to grab it. That's the beauty of it. The mental, you will not get the message. I don't get the message. Yeah? This does not understand the message of not two, because it's of two-ness. You can see the two-ness. So really in satsang, we're talking about the two-ness. You can operate. So you can see the mental system, some huge bug. You can see the head say, I get it. I get it. That is the playing of God. That is the mental system playing God. I get it. Yeah? But what is claiming to get it in that sense, in the conceptual sense, is not it, essentially. Yeah? So when you say, feels good to be able to grasp the concept, who is grasping the concept? I am. That I is taking itself to be an independent thing and claiming knowledge. Seeing that You are before that. Yeah? You are before that. That's the beauty of satsang. It really, the whole thing of not two, it's a negation. So it's a really seeing of what we're not. And you can see the head try to claim the message. Now, if you go along with that, then you're also going to go along with the head when it says crazy stuff. Yeah. So that's like Huang Po says, keep both hands open. Yeah. Kara, nice. Utah, yeah, that's right. Uh, prior to mind and conception. Prior to form, for sure. Prior to. Uh-huh. This is the thing. That's why I love the listening thing, because the listening, that open listening is always hearing essentially what is of the two-ness. So it's like the movie of you is always playing. Yeah? And you can hear that movie from the screen. But the movie of you continues to play on. Uh-huh. Prior to, I think Nisargadatta had a prior to consciousness, yeah. Prior to consciousness. Yeah. I think that's a Nisargadatta book. Nice. Well, if there's any other questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. All we have is concepts as far as human sharing, you know. So this is like we're dreaming ourselves out of the dream, as they would say. Yeah. Beautiful. All right.